accessing the data SCUI, the Starfish Marine, re-elected Imperial Archives, the Classified Archives 0701. Status: Open access. Welcome, Inquisitor.
An obvious old marine, so do I agree. He shall descend upon the perfidious foe as an angel of judgment from on high. Let the jump-up be his wings, and the roar of its engines a hint of retribution.
The Adepta's Astartes project was one of the greatest achievements mankind developed in the rise of the Imperium. It was not only a biological miracle brought forth by the might of the Emperor, but a technological breakthrough that kept the Imperial war machine running through rediscovered colonies, conquest, and the acquisition of all lore dating way back to the Dark Age of technology. Even though this project was not just merely an avenging some of the lost past, but a reawakening of the human determination, a testament. For once the word of the Emperor became flesh and woke among men, mankind started its renaissance as true heir of the galaxy. The Space Marine legions became the loud and powerful shout of the survivors of the old days of mankind, an army without equal through the Milky Way, a shield forged from the body and soul of his chosen, to tame the skies beyond terror. Though some legions excel and define roles due to both their primax inherited culture and genetic heritage, each legion was a modular force, able to act as an independent unit, being able to surpass any situation or challenge that the numerous battlefields of the Great Crusade will offer. For this task, the legionnaires were outfitted with some of the greatest and most powerful machines the young Imperium had to offer. Among this elite equipment fielded by the Space Marines was a veteran device brought back to life thanks to the Mechanicum, the Astartes Jump Pack. The origins of the Astartes Jump Pack can be traced down to the conceptualization of the Legion's fast-paced warfare. The enormous firepower already unleashed on the battlefields of the Unification Wars showed it could easily lead to the status quo of both parties, beginning a war of trenches and attrition, a way of making war not acceptable for the expensive and daring project of the Great Crusade. This manifested the need for assault units capable of penetrating the enemy lines, thus ending their order in their lines and denying their firepower, allowing a constant war of movements. While for other forces the use of shock forces was almost the suicide of the same, the enormous versatility of the Space Marines, enhanced by their much Astartes physiology and the inviolability of their increasingly present power armor, allowed his proud sons to come out unharmed. Thus were born the vanguard squads of the Space Marine legions. With the refinement of the fast-paced warfare of the early legions and the ever-increasing industrial capacity of the Imperium, the possibility of enhancing the operability of the Astartes to assault positions and escape the local counteroffensive, relocating them quickly, is theorized. This begins the use of some of the most advanced and focused devices on the Imperium's offensive capabilities. Among them is the Jump Pack. Like most of the technology at the disposal of the Imperium, the Jump Pack is a device reborn after the long ignorant darkness of old night. The Astartes Jump Pack unit embodies the philosophy of the Astartes project, both a methodical tool to wage war against the enemies of man, and the fulfillment of the Angels of Death vision. The device was a perfect match to the fast-paced warfare operations of the Space Marine legions, allowing from powered jumps through the battlefield to low-flying drops deep into enemy lines, striking down like a meteor of steel and fire. This gained momentum enables an assault at the flanks of the enemy, or hitting behind their lines, disrupting them and forcing any foe into close quarters combat. It is in such moments that those who face his proud sons contemplate the true embodiment of the Angels of Death falling upon their prey. The first manufactured jump pack appeared during the earliest stages of the Great Crusade, supplied in low numbers to the most daring Space Marine legions, due to the technical difficulties met in its construction and its long phases in pre-production. The Great Crusade was an attrition war to most legions in the fringes of the galaxy, and few were kind to the idea of increasing casualty rates by transforming the legionnaires into a flying ball of fire. The jump pack has been theorized as a miniaturized version of a hybrid pulseless pulse detonation engine attached to an armored fuel tank. Worn by one of his proud sons, it is designed to generate a powerful thrust that launches a full armored space marine into the skies in mere seconds. Such is the intensity of the acceleration in such short notice that the user is subjected to bone-crushing G-forces that will grind up mortal men before fully taking off. Such fierce raw pressure on the human body was tested during the war within the Webway when the Bringer of Sorrow, Dominion 7 of the Blood Angels, barely rescued Baroness Hyadiakis of House Barayan from her knight's destruction by performing a risky short jump out of enemy lines. In spite of the excellency of the Blood Angels' jump performance, the pressure sustained in the jump and landing process injured her pretty badly, barely surviving thanks to the partial granted protection of her pilot suit. The frame of the jetpack consists of a main high-speed engine that in most of the patterns ends in a pair of turbines. This engine is fed through air intake vents on the top of the pack that lead a highly pressurized air stream through an integrated compressor through a room analogous to the old jet engine combustion chamber, where the thrust energy is generated by the burning mixture of promethium and air. The fuel mixture, known as promethium, is a blurred general term used for any form of combustible fuel in the Imperium of Man, ranging from the various chains of hydrogen isotopes used as fuel to the energized materials that fed mass reaction in Imperial plasma generators and starship engines. Therefore, it is not a substance synthesized with the exact same chemical composition throughout the Imperium, due to the variance of refinement, world's technology, and energized substances. In fact, the variance is so small that one form of promethium usually cannot be distinguished from another, which is why the use of the single term promethium is used across the Imperium to refer to a wide variety of actual combustible fuels. Therefore, a distilled fuel is classified as refined promethium by its properties, especially being able of burning in environments like space or underwater, and the intensity of energy released by its immediate ignition. The high-speed engine of the pack takes advantage of these characteristics by making use of the most widespread form of this fuel, which is essentially a highly refined mixture of hydrocarbons. The use of promethium by such a small engine is a nod to the great thermal resistance and dispersive capabilities of the materials and technology applied in the frame construction. Due to the secrecy of the Church of Mars, it is unknown how the combustion chamber is structured. Notwithstanding, scholars support the hypothesis of a main trigger compartment, followed by a secondary area in the combustion chamber. The mix of fuel and highly pressurized gas containing hydrogen or air will explode thanks to a powerful electrical shock controlled by the Thyrsis backpack. Once detonated the load in the trigger chamber, the shock wave hits the secondary chamber, compressing the fuel before, forcing the ignition while turbulence shake the mixture. This design will allow a deflagration to detonation transition, forcing the mixture to burn to a regime that creates supersonic waves. This will explain the highly controlled bursts during low to medium altitude descents and the fast ignition and aggressive short takeoff, as well as the high consumption of promethium and limited operability. In fact, the main variants of the jump pack focus on improving the promethium consumption and overall maneuverability, thanks to refined turbines more capable of thrust vectoring, offering an increased performance of its flight capabilities. Within the frame of the jump pack, key systems and the microfusion reactor core were supplemented to make the jump pack become virtually a variant of the standard backpack unit attached to every Adeptus Astartes power armor, giving every power armor set modularity between the common tactical unit and the assault role. This multi-use ingenuity will come at a cost of being forced to wear a depleted jump pack to maintain operability. Having said that, a jump pack incorporates a quick release lock on the Astartes chest plate, which is key to his specific power armor gauntlet, allowing an emergency opening to free himself of the pack immediately. Holopics of the last days of the attrition war during the devastation of Baal show how vital this feature could be in such long conflicts, where even the Blood Angels chapter master Dante was forced to quick release his highly advanced and now depleted jump pack and finish off the last remnants of his suit's residual power. The different patterns of the jump pack device, though highly vary among them, share the aforementioned characteristics. The original manufacturer's standard jump pack was the Serpha-V pattern, commonly known as the Mark II jump pack. This pack was designed in row of handed way, being implemented as a heavily modified early backpack unit, of which zero-gravity stabilizer jets were replaced by two large cylindrical jet engines. The attached engines were connected by a suited backpack unit, which contained not only the cooling and fueling systems, but also the microfusion reactor core and integrated systems commonly seen in an Astartes power armor backpack. The modularity of the integrated design allowed an easy and fast setup of an assault space marine, with no need of enhancements or armor modifications, just like it will be with any other regular power armor setup. Notwithstanding, this modularity led to the compartmentalization of the pack inner space, reducing the fuel storage while forcing a space marine not to discard the heavy and depleted pack, not to lose the energy feeding his power armor. The compartmentalization issue of the jump pack will become a recurring problem throughout its different descendants and variants, limiting jump capabilities and user autonomy. The coarse frame configuration brought its own problems too. The high location of the propellant engines exposed the jets to enemy fire and critical damage, while its sheer weight location hindered most of the Astartes movements due to the engine's center of gravity shift. Field experience with the Serpha-V patterns and production adjustments in the assembly line brought the next iteration of the jump pack series, the Sol-Harrier jump pack. The Sol-Harrier jump pack featured a similar design to that of the Mark II pack, becoming an update that eased the difficulties of the device's manufacture. The first true redesign of the Mark II pack appeared during the stabilization of the Great Crusade war effort, when hundreds of rediscovered colonies and their surviving industries and technologies poured over the broken all-night isolation dam into the fruitful soil of the Imperium of Man. This new design will be known as the Phaeton Pattern Heavy Lift. The Phaeton Pattern was a contemporary of the Maximus power armor, sharing its philosophy of a refined yet multi-purpose device. Due to the fact that the pack pattern was meant to complement the Maximus battle plate, the Phaeton Pattern acquired the Mark IV nickname. Faithful to its nickname, the jump pack suffered drastic changes. Both jet engines of the Serpha-V pattern were substituted by a main cylindrical thruster assembled in the middle of the device's structure, following the gravity center of the battle plate, while its turbine angled outwards. Two lateral smaller jets were attached to the main frame with a similar placement to the zero-gravity stabilizer jets of the Maximus backpack, with their turbines angled backwards in a higher position than the main thruster. The air intake vent, which fed both types of engine, was set for the first time on the top of the pack, above the back of the armor plate, partially facing the back of the Astartes helmet. The newly designed main thruster was far more refined and powerful than the Sherpa engines, increasing thrust to mass ratio and flight efficiency while reducing the engine's fuel consumption. The enhanced push of the Mark IV engine was harnessed by many Legion destroyer squads, being able to wield heavy Rat weaponry like Rat missile launchers in deep strike operations. Furthermore, the relocation improved Astartes' heavier movements of earlier iterations while reducing its exposure profile to enemy attacks. Meanwhile, the edginess of both smaller jets granted maneuvering capabilities far beyond the reach of earlier models, emphasizing speed and agility during deep strike assaults. These two concepts will achieve its finest example with some Mark IV models, which were fielded with auxiliary high pressurized vents at the bottom of the jump pack unit. These auxiliary vents increase even more the improved maneuverability of the device, but also perform as low-consuming thrusters, allowing the user to preserve valuable fuel during long flights. Nevertheless, the compartmentalization issue will not be solved entirely, still forcing the user to wear a depleted jump pack to maintain the power armor working. Perhaps the most benefited of the Mark IV pack attributes are the Sons of the Great Angel, bonded with their Primarch with a natural affinity to the skies, yet not blessed with a winged gift. Since the early inception of the jump pack, numerous sets were sent to the Blood Angels Legion, and with the arrival of the Phaeton pattern, the Legion commissioned their own model. The Phaeton variant, fielded by the Blood Angels Legion, was named the Winged Jump Pack. Its design emulated Sanguinius' own angelic wings in an exquisite combination of beauty and fear, taking full advantage of the newly engineered propulsion system and flight movability. This, combined with the gene-seed heritage of the Ninth, transformed each individual into an avatar of hope to those in need, and an avenging angel of Terra's legends to his foes. In fact, the sanguinary god itself, a symbol of the mighty prowess and martial skill that protected the only Primarch ever feared by the arch-traitor, adopted the Winged Phaeton pattern as their own warrior. This thriving implementation and the battlefield successes harvested by the Legion made jump packs a symbol of the might of the Adeptus Astartes, encouraging its use and establishing the still living custom of ornately crafting it with intricate gilt work or even unfurled wings. The Phaeton pattern, like the Maximus power armor, became an icon of the Imperium technological renaissance, but also aggravated the many issues reported in the jump pack line of production. The extreme dependence on ancient STCs, combined with the difficulties met by numerous fault walls to implement its high demanding production and maintenance cost, and the wide range of deep strike options at Adepta's Astartes disposal, seriously lagged its production. To counter this drawback, the Mechanicum's project approach will shift radically. The new generations of the pack meta diversification that led to new promising patterns, though the ever-increasing toll of resources relegated them to mere experimental pre-production models. This diversification stalemate slowed down even more the creation of more reliable jump packs. One fine example of this mindset is the Thyrsis Pattern jump pack, a highly suspected descendant of the Phaeton pattern, of which only 200 units are recorded to have ever been sent to the Dark Angel's homeworld Caliban at some point in 998 and 30. Although the Imperium of men have achieved an unparalleled industrial capacity at the stabilization of the Great Crusade, this support equipment will not reach an increase in production until the late days of the Great Crusade, gaining an elite status among the vanguard elements of the Adepta's Astartes legions, both due to its rarity and the courage of its users. Finally, the outbreak of the Horus Heresy hammered the last nail in the coffin of the pre-Heresy jump pack models. The Legion's short supply of these patterns was seized with the breakout of the Galactic Civil War. As the Horus Heresy devoured the Imperium's industry and infrastructure, the devices based on the technological headache that the Phaeton pattern and its many variants have become were wiped out. On top of that, the resources destruction of the system of Mars cut down the Imperial output, removing the wide range of deep strike tactical choices at the Adepta's Astartes operations due to its heavy dependence on complex and not well established STC's replicas. Overall, this led to an exponential increase of the jump pack demand that the Departamentum Monitorum was not able to fulfill. The Imperium was forced to take a step back in order to feed its self-eating industry. Thus, the development of the Mark V jump pack. The Mark V, contrary to popular belief, was never dubbed by the Mechanicum, since it was conceived as a shame, a mere tool born out of necessity, rather than deficient implementation of the will of the Omnissiah. It will be its use in such dire circumstances what earned its nickname, the so-called Heresy Pattern. The Heresy Pattern lives up to its inherited name, being a recycled hodgepodge of the Serpha-V and Sol-Harrier Patterns. Gone were the days of the technological breakthrough of the Phaeton pattern, burning the fires of Horus ambition. The design prioritized functionality and large-scale production. The single embedded main thruster and its auxiliary jets design were left in favor of the outdated but more settled two-engine model, resulting in a considerable loss of maneuverability. Nevertheless, experiences with the earlier patterns allow advancements in the jet engine's technology over that of the Serpha-V by making the thrusters larger and lighter. To somehow counter the re-emerging problem of the jet's damage exposure, the upper section was reinforced, giving the jets a distinctive conic appearance. In addition, the fuel and coolant systems were miniaturized, reducing the bulk in the backpack frame and granting somewhat more stability than the Mark II models. Nonetheless, the compartmentalization issue was aggravated, forcing the user to wear a heavier depleted jump pack than the Mark IV to maintain the power armor working. This placed the Heresy variant in terms of overall efficiency in the middle ground between the Serpha-V and the Phaeton. The Mark V jump pack, in the image of the Mark V power armor, became the harbinger of mankind's renaissance there. At the end of the revolt of he the unworthy of his lineage, when the echoes of war went silent, the only thing left was a great fibrotic scar in the heart of the young Imperium. The subsequent downturn of the Imperium's economy was catastrophic. Entire worlds were lost in the conflict, with thousands of refugees still languishing in the Segmentum Solar. Famines spread in entire subsectors due to the chain collapse of entire agri-worlds, while the heavily damaged forge worlds, including Mars itself, were oblivious to any call for reorganization, still submerged in their own civil wars. The entire integrity of the Imperium's command chain wavered, half of its armies lost in the conflict, the other half heavily weathered. The Imperium was bleeding to death. Only under the surgical gaze of Robert Guilliman himself, the Imperium was given time to cicatrize. Some technologies will be recovered, found among the spoils of war. Others will be simply lost or never again implemented due to the resources cost or the stagnation of its manufacturing capabilities. Such was the case of many of the Great Crusade rediscovered wonders, including the jump pack. The relative simplicity of the Mark V pattern became a complex issue that only the most skilled tech adepts of the newly reforged Adeptus Mechanicus could even attempt. Through the following millennia, its production will cease relentlessly, reaching a point when they were merely maintained in the Space Marine chapter armories. Thus it was until the lethargic salvation of this ancient device came back to life from the forgotten sands of space and time, a found intact STC. This miracle of the past led to the introduction of the Mark VII jetpack. The Mark VII pattern has been traced back by scholars to a consensus date placed sometime during the latter days of the Primarch Age, with many speculations regarding its origin. It has been suggested that its discovery may be as late as 546 and 32, after the War of the Beast. There is neither record related to the identity of the Magos explorator responsible of the site location, nor evidence of when the modern template was found, being only registered the assigned name to the planet site, BH2. The greatest quality of the Mark VII pattern does not lie in its thrust-to-mass ratio or its mobility, but rather its large-scale production capacity, thanks to its stable STC, copied and shared among many forge worlds. For the first time since its implementation, the jump pack production skyrocketed, fulfilling the ever-hungry demand of the Space Marines. And so, in an era where teleportation devices were faded by the ever-increasing flux of the warp and the technological scarcity of the post-Crusade age, while their full-time mighty and nearly indestructible war machines languished in the shadows of burned battlefields, the jump pack held the line against the shadow of oblivion. In the shape of the Mark VII, it arrived to the armories of every Space Marine chapter as a cheap, reliable, and efficient weapon of maneuver warfare, worthy of having its name inscribed among the pages of the Codex Astartes. From this point onwards, it steadily gained adepts in organizations like the newly and secretive Death Watch, who pushed the design efficiency to its greatest limits and achievements, while it once again regained its former glory in the hands of the Raven Guard and the Blood Angels, conquering the skies once more. Until this day, the Mark VII holds itself as the standard template from which almost all fielded variants are founded. Such variants usually are nothing but the same jump pack in all but in name, with little to no deviation from the original design, such as the Valkyrie's pattern jump pack, fielded by the reckless Skyclaw assault packs of the Wolves of Fenris. While the archaeological miracle brought a fresh new generation of jump packs to the Loyalists, those unworthy of being named lumber in the crimson shadows of the Eye of Terror, feasting upon their excesses, poisoning their minds, and damning their souls forever. Following the production record of the jump pack throughout Imperial history, any remnant formation of traitorous old Space Marines should have been wiped out of existence, consumed by age, and even higher attrition rates than their Loyalist counterpart. Yet, they endure. For millennia, the warp twisted the machine spirit of once dutiful engines, melded them to the amalgam of corrupted flesh and bone that the users became, no longer fueled by the pure Promethean fires, but by the impious will of their master and the cruel waves of the warp. Astartes and machine became a single-minded being, ravenous of inflicting fear and death upon the defenseless. Their flight came announced by box-cast shrieks of hatred, their lightning by the meteor of madness, and their hunger by the foresight of doom. Thus were born the Raptors, a crude mockery of the elite Space Marine legionnaires of old. Like the old birds of prey of Terra, Raptors hunt in packs, disdaining any cohesion with all the traitor forces, seeking misery from above. The Raptors' self-indulgence and predilection for sadism and psychological warfare has made them easy to predict. Raptors should not be underestimated, because dwelling under codes of corruption and warp taint lies a still sharp reflection of their former minds and skills. The greatest among their numbers belong to remnants of Night Lord's war bands, scattered and loyal only to those willing to feed them. The biggest gathering of these war bands was led by the Despoiler during the final days of Cadia, in 999 and 41. Since the declaration of the 13th Black Crusade, sights of even more warp-twisted raptors have spread through the galaxy. These beings have been suggested to be able to tear the veil of reality itself, slicing through space and time driven by mad hunger. The last reports sent by the Vigilus system defenders indicate the gathering of these perfidious foes in the proximities of key routes through the Great Rift, led under the command of Haken Worldclaimer, herald of the Despoiler. The success of the jump pack among 10 millennia of warfare led to the implementation of lesser jump pack models, designed for non-augmented humans in powered armor. Few organizations can spare enough resources to field such units on the battlefield. The Seraphim jump pack is a testament of the power of Adeptus Ministorum. The Seraphim device is the most known lesser iteration in the 41st millennium. The origin of the pattern is unknown, with many sources of Ecclesiarchy stating it as an offspring of the Serpha-V and Mark VII adapted to human physiology, while all these dissented voices claim it to be a hidden STC in hands of the Adeptus Ministorum, repurposed to meet the Sororitas' needs. Wherever its origin, the Seraphim pattern is a redoubtable engine of uneasy taming. To counter the lack of communication between user and power armor due to the lack of Black Array-based implant, the Order Militant places special emphasis on strict coordination, dexterity, and fire control, instructing the Seraphim users to achieve impressive levels, even among the Sororitas. Their extreme training and hard selection process, combined with their aggressive hit-and-run tactics and their hot wrath tempered by years of experience, have made them some of the most valuable assets in many Imperial conflicts. Supplied to the elite warriors of the Order's Militant, the device has given wings to the daughters of the Emperor to phase through border and flame Shinos, heretics and mutants since the Thorian Reformation. In the last days of the 40 millennia, the Adeptus Mechanicus received word of new arcade excavations in the Coronux Expanse, presumably attempted by rogue traders sailed from Port Wonder in the Hollow Stars region. Rumors have stated the possibility of the discovery of an ancient and refined jump-pack STC, capable of being used by non-augmented users, even lacking power armor, though due to the ever-increasing Orc menace around the Galaxy's sector, all attempts of locating these rogue traders have been unsuccessful. Although most of the questions regarding its existence have been steadily dismissed by most tech priests, alluding them to the use of broadly identified grab shoots, it's quite noteworthy that the still lost and unconfirmed STC has already been classified by the Adeptus Mechanicus as the Lathe pattern jump pack. Only time will tell if this device will become a new revolution in the use of the jump pack for the whole Imperium. The story of the mighty jump pack device is the tale of mankind, led into the abyss of the night by the shadows of beings who deem themselves greater than us, yet against all odds defiant on the edge of the abyss, pushing where so many others have failed. Hope still exists in the Imperium, and our bond as a species under the eternal gaze of the Emperor cannot be consumed. The jump pack embodies our tenacity, our will, and our proud wounds facing the uncaring taskful. Paraphrasing the late 2nd millennia poet Dylan Themis, Rage against the dying of the light, eternal war against the enemies of man. We will not go gentle into the dark night.